Welcome to the Emotionally Baked podcast, where emotions and baking are the two most perfect ingredients. Hello, and welcome to the Emotionally Baked podcast. Hi, welcome back. This is the podcast where we talk about our emotions, what we're feeling, all while baking it out, in hopes of making something yummy and working out what we've got going on. So hi, and welcome back. If you have missed this one and you've seen that there was other podcasts on here, don't worry. We come back to Emotionally Baked, and we will be switching between emotionally baked, emotionally booked, and emotionally blooming. And we're just gonna create a little cycle of fun things here. So I hope that you love each segment of the Emotionally Baked Podcast Network. And yeah, the book podcast is where I talk about a book I'm reading and how it's emotionally affecting me, and how, that just is another aspect of dealing with emotions. And the Blooming podcast is where we talk about how we have come on the other side of things, and we just go a little deeper into the outcomes of our emotions and how we are doing in our daily, in our daily lives, basically. So I hope that you enjoyed that first podcast of Emotionally Blooming. Here we are. We are going to be talking today about motherhood and muffins. Now, if this doesn't apply to you, if motherhood is not your journey, I totally understand if you choose to skip this episode. I totally understand if you're here just to figure out, hey, what is she even talking about? Thank you for putting up with me. And I thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I am going to be using a blueberry muffin mix that I have used before, a muffin recipe. And that recipe was from thelittlesweetbaker.com, and I'll link that website below, but I'm gonna be altering it just a little bit. I like to do that. I like to take recipes and kind of flip them and make them my own. And blueberries are not yet, almost in season, but not yet in season. But I wanted a base muffin mix. During the week, it's just good for my kids to have something to grab and go. I have older ones. I can't believe it. Oh, that's why we're talking about motherhood, right? Ones that just need to grab something as they run out the door. And muffins are perfect for that. And I kind of wanted to have a base mix so that I can kind of do kind of what everybody likes. Because if you know, motherhood is all about, especially if you have multiple kids. Now, you could have just a singleton, and this can apply as well, but my kiddos, everybody is different. Everybody has different tastes. Everybody has different likes. Everybody is just a mix. And then you throw your partner, your spouse, your husband into it, and they're even different as well. Like so you're literally almost short order cooking all the time. I remember when my husband and I were first having children, and we could still, I could make dinner for me and him, and the littles would be eating baby food or whatever it was. And I remember it kind of slowly switching where they could eat what we were eating and not having to just, make separate meals. Like, me and my husband have this meal and my kids have a different meal. But now we're at that point. Well, my older kids like what I make, so they're enjoying it, but I still have a little who is kind of needy in his food, what he likes to eat. So I still have to kind of short order cook for him and make him a little something different. And I just can't wait for the day that he likes what we like. I mean, he does. He's getting there. He's getting a lot better. So yay. All right. So this muffin mix is a basic flour, baking powder, baking soda, salt, sugar, milk, egg kind of like base. And we're going to put all of those, I have my favorite bowl. We're going to whisk them together, and I'm going to start with my dry ingredients. And if it's been a while since it has been a while, I feel like, since I've made something, I like to whisk and sift, either whisk or sift, but I like my sifter, the dry ingredients in things that I bake, especially muffins, whether it's muffins, pancakes, cake, anything that has like flour, baking soda, and baking powder, because I don't like to get any clumps of those ingredients. Baking powder and baking soda, if you've ever tasted a clump of it in something, it is super sour, and you just don't want to get that in something that you're making, because it kind of can affect like the whole experience. I've had that happen when I made pancakes for my family, and there was like clumps in there, and they kept going, "Ooh, what's the sour bits?" And I said, I will sift from now on. Everything will be sifted. So in your bowl, I'm going to mix my flour, baking powder, baking soda, salt. And those are going to be my dry ingredients for right now. So let's do that. And I'm going to probably mute this because all of the products are loud. Like when you get your flour out, it's loud. So hold on. Okay, well, we have our dry ingredients in our bowl. Now, I've learned over the years that sugar is not really considered a dry ingredient, even though it technically is dry. Excuse me. But so I tend to put that after I sift and everything, because if you've tried to sift sugars, they get in a sifter, they get stuck quite often. So I usually don't put that in my sifter. So here we are. We are going to talk about motherhood and the journey of motherhood and just motherhood in general. And this is coming off of a Mother's Day weekend, and there was a lot of big feelings this weekend. My son and I shared the day. My son turned 18 on Mother's Day, and I remember back when he was born the day before Mother's Day, and it was so fun to, say like, I became a mom again on Mother's Day, weekend. It was great. And it brought up a lot of emotions because turning 18, and he's graduating from high school, going off to college, like the emotions were big, and the emotions, and he's driving now and going off and doing his own thing. Is just, and I've experienced this already. My daughter, she's in college, she's 21, she's off doing her own thing. It never gets easier. It never gets easier. Motherhood is such an ebb and flow, and you experience so many emotions. And I put something up on my social media, and I have another cup of coffee today because, yes, I was exhausted from yesterday, from Mother's Day. So I'm making it through today on another cup of coffee. And I have to look up the quote, but it was something about how just like motherhood is a lot of giving of self and things, and it's just indescribable sometimes how like it was basically saying motherhood like innately changes you. It changes you as a person, it changes you just wholeheartedly. And it takes a lot. I think motherhood takes a lot out of a person in good and bad ways. In good, it shows you how strong you can be. It shows you how resilient you can be. It shows you how giving you can be, how loving you can be, how stressed you can be. If you know, you know. Like having two kids who are driving and being out in the world and just trusting them to make their decisions, that good decisions, that alone in itself. Oh, I don't want to cry, but like they're taking a piece of your heart with them as they go and traverse the world and make choices and things, and it's crazy. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm gonna tear up here. Okay, let's not let these other ingredients sit and wait, because I feel like they're saying mix this together. So I have my dry ingredients in my favorite bowl, and I'm going to just put in the 1 cup of sugar and just gonna whisk that all together just to kind of incorporate it all, the sugar into all the flour. Now I have my wet ingredients, my true wet ingredients. I got my vanilla, and it's a tablespoon of vanilla, so you know it's gonna be good because I love vanilla. And a cup of milk to 2 eggs, and we're just gonna whisk that all together. So here we go, tablespoon of vanilla. Woo! One of these days, I think I might try making my own vanilla. I think that would be super fun. I've seen people do it. I've seen videos on it. I've seen so I kind of really want to do it because I love it so much. All right, and it's so expensive. Okay, so I got my 1/2 cup of butter melted. I'm gonna put that in here. Now, since the butter is hot and we have eggs that are going in here, I'm gonna whisk the butter just a little bit so I don't, and the milk will cool it down. Because remember, we're putting eggs in here. So I got my cup of milk. We're putting eggs in here, and I just don't want to scramble the eggs. So whenever you have eggs in a recipe, and then you have something warm, like warm butter, I just don't want to scramble the eggs. I want to make sure that I cool it down a little bit. So yeah, the milk is helping. So I'm just whisking this up before I start putting my eggs in. It is really thick. So thank you, chickens. We're back to tons of eggs, and I'm trying to have a little egg stand out front for people to get eggs. And I put little notes on my neighbor's door and said, hey, I have eggs if you want them. Nobody's bought them yet, and that's okay. But if you watch this and you live in my area and you want eggs, I got a whole ton, because I am not going to be able to eat all of these. They're just so many. Okay, woo! So we're just gonna keep whisking this until it is smooth. Just looks like a big blob at the moment. So, motherhood. I remember becoming a mom for the first time 21 years ago, and my daughter just changed my world. Love her to pieces. Like, it was just totally an amazing time. Like, I love being a mom, and yeah, and I quickly did though realize how much, at that time, my husband, he asked me, I had just graduated, but I had been out of college for a little bit after I had her. And my husband asked me when I got pregnant, he asked me if I would be willing to stay home with Taylor, my daughter, and be a stay-at-home mom for a little bit until she got into school, whatever it was. And being like, I love working. I love, doing things. I just loved doing. Like, I was very much a doer. I was like, it was hard for me to kind of say, okay, I'm just going to stay home, and what am I going to do? And I'm so glad I said yes, because being home with Taylor, and I did get pregnant with my son in the meantime. I had him when my daughter was like 2.5, almost 3. And so being home with 2 littles for about 5 years, because when my daughter went to school in kindergarten, I took my son, he went to a preschool that was at the school that and I ended up getting a job at the school, so it just worked out perfectly. And yeah, but those first 5 years of just that motherhood, being in motherhood and being a mom and stay-at-home mom, really, I felt like transformed me as a person. Really, really transformed me as a person. And it helped me realize so much about myself, because I didn't think I could do it at first. I didn't think I could, nurture and love and just to take care of a house. And we had been married for 3 years before my daughter was born. So I had kind of done, I felt like, home, I could take care of a house, and me and my husband learned a lot of things on our own. And then there was I just felt like a big transition between, just the 2 of us working in the household to being like a stay-at-home mom who, like, I really took on like the role of like household, like, this is my household, and like all the things. And it really was at that time, when I was a stay-at-home mom, that I really got into learning how to bake and cook and do all the things, because I was home. I could figure it out. I had the time and do the things. And then, yeah, just creating special times for my kids, creating special events, or creating special, just things for them to do, just all the stuff was just so much fun. It was just so, I don't know, it just really brought out a side of me that I didn't know I had. Like, because as a young, I was married young. I was married at 20, had my first baby at 24. So yeah, it was very young, and it really helped me learn a lot about myself, like what I was capable of doing, what I was capable of being, and all of that, so that was super fun to kind of learn about myself and in the process and all the things. And I will say, it just, like, there's a part of motherhood that I feel like transforms you in the sense of like self. There's a selflessness that comes, I feel like, with motherhood, that you take self out of the equation a lot, and you give of yourself a lot. And there is a lot that you are not thanked for. There's a lot that you are not given credit for. There's a lot that you are having to kind of suck up. And there's a lot that I will say, I've gone to bed many a time crying because my child either, out of just I don't know, just, they have such high emotions when they're certain ages, and I don't like you, or they slam the door, or they don't want to do it, and there's a lot of taking, like, okay, okay, they're dealing with an emotion, and I'm gonna help them. I'm gonna let them feel. But there's a lot that, you know, I feel, you know, hurt, and there's a lot that we neglect of ourselves, you know. All right, so we've got our mix here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the plain mix in all of my muffin little sections here, and I'm going to decide on what I'm going to put in them in just a second, because my family does like a lot of different things, and my husband is on a big like pistachio kick right now, so I think I'm going to make him some pistachio ones. I might even do like a pistachio chocolate chip too. I don't know. So we will see. So I know my kiddos, especially my little, loves plain good old chocolate chip. And then I did have some like mixed berries from the freezer section. So I might go ahead and put some berries in there. And just so that everybody kind of gets like a little bit of everything. So I went ahead and put just 1 scoop in, and I have more left over, and I'm going to put that on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my mixes or my fillings, and I'm going to put them in, and then put more batter on top. I'm like talking my way through this. More batter on top, and maybe top it with a little bit more, so it kind of like a layered situation. Since I could have chosen to take a whole bunch of separate bowls and mix them all together in separate bowls, but like different, like if I wanted to do a berry one, but I don't honestly want to mess up that many things. So this is what I'm doing, because I think this will be just a little bit more less, it'll be less messy. So we're gonna do that. And yeah, so while I do this, kind of wrapping up our discussion on motherhood and how it can truly change you as a person, and how we give up of ourselves, and what that, you know, self-sacrifice looks like. And I know I'm speaking from my own experience, so if it's different for others, I totally understand. But I have in my life like a whole bunch of different aspects of motherhood that I have seen, like a whole bunch of different ways that motherhood has been exemplified, like I see in my life. Sorry, the pistachio bag it's hard to open. And meaning like I know what adoptive motherhood looks like. I know what foster motherhood looks like. I know what biological motherhood looks like. I know what you know it looks like when your mom loses their mom. And it's so interesting, and it's so fascinating to see the different ways that motherhood is exemplified in life. You know, like how, yeah, just is so interesting to see that, because motherhood doesn't just look one way. It's not just one traditional aspect. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? There can be different avenues to motherhood. There could be different motherhood experiences and how we've gotten there. I know surrogacy motherhood. You know, there's just so many different ways that motherhood is achieved, and seeing all those aspects in my life and in the life of my family members, and to see that, you know, come to fruition is it's very moving, and it's very profound to see how all of that plays out in life. So I'm just putting that little scoop on top of, so I filled them and I'm putting just another little scoop of batter. And then I might go ahead and like put a little bit more on top, you know, just to kind of garnish it all. I'm trying to really stretch this. Ooh, I hope I have enough. I hope I have enough. I might not, but hey, that's okay. That is okay. So after I get these all covered and garnished and figured out and all the things, I will put them in the oven. It says they only take about 15 minutes to bake up, and that'll be good. We'll get that all baked up and yummy, and then the kids will have something to take with them. My daughter this morning, she wanted something quick to take with her. I didn't have anything, so that's why I was like, oh, I need to have something to take for the kids to take with them. I didn't have quite enough to put on top of everything, so I'm gonna borrow and steal from another. There we go. There we go. Oh, looking good. So we're gonna just go ahead and chop these all off with just a little extra of what each of them are, so we kind of know these are the pistachio ones, these are the chocolate chip ones, these are, now I'm forgetting, no, this was right, okay, Heather, I'm losing my mind. Anyway, so yeah, these are gonna go in the oven for about 15 minutes, and then I'll just leave them on the counter. Kids will come and get them when they need them. So motherhood is definitely a life-changing experience. It's definitely something that if you choose that, if that path is something that you choose in your life, it's one that I highly recommend. If it's a path that you do choose, know that and oh, that's another part of motherhood that I didn't talk about, but having the group around you, having a group of mothers around you, whether it's your family, whether it's mother friends, whatever it is, to help you get through the journey of motherhood, I think that's essential. It's essential to have people around you that can help support you in all of it. And I know that sometimes, like when I stayed home, I felt very alone because I stayed home. I was by myself. But it was reaching out and finding people, getting out of my comfort zone, finding people who I could share the motherhood journey with that really helped change everything. You know, I didn't feel so overwhelmed. When you find people who are going through the same things you are, and you realize you aren't alone, it helps so much. So, all right, this is what they look like now. We'll bake them. I'll show you what they look like after they're done. And yeah, whether the salt in your recipe comes from tears or a teaspoon, just remember we baked it out. All right, we'll talk to you next time.